So you got sober in 2011.
Yeah.
So you have 14 years.
Correct. Yep. April this year. Yeah.
And how old are you?
I am 38. Had to think about it for a second.
So you got sober when you were 24.
Yeah.
Well, we have a lot to unpack here, but
Yeah.
let's talk about you. Did you get sober down in Florida?
I did.
Okay. And you're from Jersey.
I grew up in New Jersey. Yes.
Okay. What was early childhood like?
It was good. You know, I grew up in Toms River, which is like right outside of the Seaside Heights area where they filmed all those MTV shows.
Yep.
So, you know, great neighborhood, great parents, great family, good schools, all that stuff. You know, riding bikes outside, playing manhunt, going down to the golf course, you know, just it was beautiful.
Yeah.
You know, beaches in the summer, you know, and you know, my parents split up when we were young. I was young. I was probably in third grade, you know, and that was like a little bit of a traumatic experience for me because, you know, we had this house in this neighborhood and then all of a sudden we had two houses in two different neighborhoods and we were 1 week at mom's and we were 1 week at dad's and it was just confusing for everyone. And I'll never forget like being pulled into like the guidance counselor's office, you know, in like elementary school. And it's like, you only went there like if you were in trouble or if like some was going down.
Traumatic event was
you know?
going
So it's
down,
like, I'm leaving class to go to the guidance counselor's office. And, you know, I don't know. Those are like those things that like stick in my mind. And there's not a lot of stuff that I can remember from like like earlier than that. You know, like I remember I've done a lot of work on myself, right? And they'll always ask me like, what's the earliest thing you can remember in your childhood? You know, and like, it's little things like that like stick and stand out, you know? But, you know, that was early childhood. And then like, you know, mom remarried, dad remarried. And like, then we were into middle school, which was like, you know, that's always the weirdest time. I don't know about you, but, or most children, like just a weird phase, 2 years in a school with like kids from all over different places. And, you know, and then into high school, I was always athletic. I was in band. I played drums. I swam in high school. I was varsity on the swim team. I went to, I was a lifeguard all 5 years of my, so high school into college, you know, I was a lifeguard. So I was always athletic, you know, which my dad kind of like shoved me into that direction. Hey, you know, you're going to swim, you know, and then like, it was like lifeguard. Cause you know, you have to earn money. They're like, you have to get a job. Like I got way before that. I got my first job when I was 13 as a busboy, you know, in a diner in Seaside Park. And, yeah, so they raised me right. You know, like they instilled values and things into me today that I can see back on. I'm like, man, I'm really glad that they did that, you know, because I feel like today the children are a little bit different, a little entitled, a little enabled. But yeah, like working at 13 and then like working all throughout, like if I wasn't in school, I was working. Yeah. You know, and that's just kind of how I was brought up, like earn your keep, you know, bought my first car cash, paid my own insurance, you know, all that stuff. So, yeah, that childhood was good. And then college and freedom happened and shit just went way south from there.
Did your parents, when they split up and they got the divorce, did they get along following?
I think the first couple years were an adjustment period, but then afterwards, you know, they did.
Ultimately, they ended up getting remarried and it's about the kids. And
it was civil, but there was always arguments over things. You know, I mean, even still to this day, there are things that come up and, you know, moms may be like, man, I can't believe your dad did that. You know, I'm like, mom, it's 25, 30 years ago, you know?
That's funny.
Yeah.
So you graduate high school, you go to college.
Yeah.
Where did you go?
So I was a bad test taker. You know, for some reason, I don't know, my GPA was good, but I had to do a summer semester in college to get into college. And that was in Bloomsburg, Pennsylvania. So, and that was another pivotal point in my journey that I always like to talk about. And I'll never hold this against her. It's just the way that it was. My mom was like, you're going to college. You're going away. Pick somewhere, figure it out and go, you know? And I was like, well, I just want to go to county college. I just want to like stay here in my little nest and like be comfortable. And like, she kind of was like, go. And I was 17. I was 17 when I did my summer semester in college. And I just turned 18 when I started my freshman year. And college for me was a disaster. I just scraped by every single semester, every single class, every single test, just scraped by enough to be able to stay there. But once I left home, you know, in high school and stuff, you know, we drank, we played around a little bit. But when I went to college, it was like something just like switched in me. And I was like, because maybe I didn't want to be there. So it was kind of like a F you to the system. And like,
yeah, of course,
you know, I'm just going to drink. And I didn't get really bad into drugs then, but I experimented with everything. Every single possible drug that you can think of, I did while I was in college. I didn't get like heavily addicted to any of them, but like, you know, list them all out. I've tried them.
Yeah, you were testing the waters.
Testing the waters, yeah.
The parents aren't around. My first college semester, I was like, wow, this freedom. Like my parents, my mom was like home at 12, you know, but like all my friends are coming home at like 2 a.m. I was always the earliest kid who had to go home, you know, early. And for me, freedom hit hard. Like I was like, yes, this is amazing. I think I got a 1.7 my first semester.
I was in the 2.0 club, whatever it was. Like just enough. Like I said, just enough.
This show is sponsored by Open Recovery Addiction Help. Whether you're newly sober, in long-term sobriety, or even maybe looking to make a change in your life, Open Recovery offers 24/7 support right from your phone. It's anonymous and packed with tools to help you stay connected, stay accountable, and build the life you deserve. Download the Open Recovery Addiction Help app today and take the next step in your recovery journey. Yep, on probation, semester 2, got to get the grades up.
Yeah.
Same though. I was running wild with drugs and I had all this freedom. What was it for you? Did you have any trouble with identity almost? Like you're now just released into college, parents aren't around, you're living on your own. Where are you at identity wise?
I think I struggled with that like from middle school on. Yeah. Like not knowing. And then like, you know, kids are so ruthless with the teasing and like the bullying and all that stuff. And like, I was like part of that, you know, like I got bullied a lot and, you know, going into college, you know, I was 17 and like I was young. I had a September birthday. So like I was always the youngest kid in class. Right. So like, I don't even think I hit, like, this is crazy, right? Like, I don't even think I really hit puberty until like junior year, senior year, and then going into college, you know, like just super young, you know? And like, yeah, identity was always an issue. I had my entire 2.5 years in college, undeclared major, no idea what I liked, no idea what I wanted to do. And that was part of my issue was that like, why am I spending all this money, getting all these loans, doing all this shit? And I have no clue what I want to do. You know, that to me was the reason why I wanted to stay home and go to community college and like take some time to sit and figure it out, you know, and my business now, which is video production. It's funny because I fell in love with video and telling stories about that time. I had got a camcorder for Christmas. It was 2006. And it was one that you had to put the mini DV tapes into. And I would always make videos of us getting drunk and doing stupid shit, going hiking into the railroad tracks and jumping off this thing into this pond. And I was into cars. I would take videos of our cars. We were like lowering them, modifying them. I was having so much fun doing it, but I had no idea who I was. And everybody told me that I would never make money doing it. So I just let it dissipate, which to me now, when I look back on it, was like, man, it's such a shame. Such a shame. Why couldn't I go into media or into this or into that in school? I just had no idea. Yeah. I had no like inkling of like that it was even possible. Yeah. You know?
So you're dabbling with all these drugs. Which drugs and or alcohol was consistent through college?
So I didn't want to get a job in college. I was tired of working, right? Yeah. So I sold weed like any good entrepreneur would, right? And I ended up selling to an undercover cop at a party one night when I was absolutely drunk.
Well, can you tell us the story how you got connected with this cop, like from bottom to the top?
Yeah, no, it was somebody else that gotten in trouble.
Okay.
And it was a friend of mine, good friend that I was selling weed to for years. And he got in trouble and they turned him. And one night just so happened, he was like, hey, can I come by? I'm like, yeah, sure. I was already, 10 beers deep to the wind or whatever. I'm like, yeah, sure. Like I'd known the kid, and he had this other cat with him and I didn't know who he was. And I was like, I don't care. Like I trust this guy, whatever. And then I sold them whatever I sold them. And then the next morning they were in the house. They woke me. I was naked in bed with my girlfriend at the time. They were in the house with guns drawn.
How much did you sell them?
Not a lot. And I didn't have a lot in the safe either, you know?
Okay. So they come in guns drawn.
Yeah.
They arrest you.
Yeah.
They take you to the precinct.
Yep.
Book you.
Yeah.
Do you get released or did you have
I did 30 days.
30 days in the jail.
I did 30 days just to like, for them to wait for the court date and all that stuff. And I was an active student at the time, right? So that was the beginning of the end of college and also the beginning of my spiral into deep addiction. At that time, it was 2007. And that's when the OxyContin boom had gotten crazy, right? So I didn't have an identity at the time, but I felt like my identity was taken from me. My identity was I'm in school, I'm partying, I'm selling drugs. These are my friends. I was in a band. I played drums. I did all this stuff. That was my identity. I thought, right? And then I go to county. And then when I get released from county, the school was like, you can't return here, obviously. So I had to go back home, live in my parents' basement. And at that point in time, I thought that my life was over. I was 19.
Yeah.
I'm 19 and I thought my life was over, right? So that's when I found painkillers, right? And I felt like my life was over. I had lost my girlfriend. I had lost my friends. I had lost my band. I lost my college. I lost everything, right? And then when I took that opiate, all those feelings went away. They were gone. I was good. Living in my parents' basement, delivering pizza. I'm good. And that went on for the next 6 years.
What were you doing initially? Oxy 80s, 40s?
Yeah, so you know how it goes. Starts with the Percocet, right? And then it goes to the Roxys, the 30s when they were big, right? And then, and then to the Oxys, right?
OCs.
And then, the OC 80s. And then you get to a point where you can't afford it and your buddy's got this little baggie that costs $10, right? Which heroin's not even around anymore, right? You get the little baggie that costs $10. You start sniffing it, whatever. And then, one day your buddy has a needle, and the next thing you know, 5-6 years go by and you're an IV drug user just living to use and just working every day to get high.
So this goes on for the next 5 or 6 years.
Yeah.
Did you have any overdoses?
I did. Yeah. So, this was the worst one. And, it was on, this story is crazy. So it was Christmas Eve. I had lived with a couple different friends because my parents obviously caught on to things. They see myself they see me letting go of myself.
Withering
right?
away.
Yeah. Soul, body, mind, spirit, everything. And, I'd lived with a few different people here and there bouncing around. I'd lived with this older gentleman who was a mechanic. He owned a mechanic shop and had an extra bedroom. So I would live there because he would let me do whatever the fuck I wanted. I'd pay him $500 a month and I could do whatever I wanted. And, I was living there at the time. And did one bag that was one bag too strong and I fell out. And he was living there with his girlfriend at the time. And they were like, man, we got to get him to the hospital. They took me out. I was in pajama pants and a t-shirt, no underwear. They took me out of the house. It was snowing in Jersey. They dropped me in the snow. And I believe, this is fucking crazy to even talk about this. I believe that the only reason I'm alive today is because they fell trying to get me out of the house and drop me in the snow. And it woke my body up just enough for them to get me to the hospital to give me the Narcan. Because the nasal shit didn't exist yet. None of that other stuff existed yet. They had to give it to me to IV. Yeah. Right. And then it was it was Christmas Eve or whatever. My mom comes in and she was like, wow, dad's son would have been a great Christmas gift.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And I was like, fuck.
So when they dropped you, it woke you back up and then it obviously closed the gap between oxygen getting cut off. So it wasn't long enough for you to be brain dead. Mm-hmm. They save you and you come back to life. Yeah. You are blessed.
Exactly. And that was about 2 weeks before I went to treatment.
So
there's a lot of shit that happened in between there, failed attempts, going to detox for 4 days, coming back home, the same cycle. I had tried multiple times. I battled with alcohol for a long time because alcohol is not a drug. And once I get off the heroin, I can just drink, and I banged my head against the wall for many years. And, I kind of surrendered at that point. And I don't know, something, you know how it is. You go to treatment, right? And something just clicks where you're like so broken spiritually, emotionally, financially, you're broken down in every aspect that your only choice is to like go up from here, you know? And I was at this place in North New Jersey. It was bought out. It's bought out by now, but it was a monastery. So like monks had lived there for many, many years before it was transitioned into a treatment center. Talking old brick building, all glass, no insulation, cold, right? But beautiful. It was like visibly beautiful. And like I'd be standing outside, like looking at this building, you know, smoking a cigarette, watching the sunrise. I don't know, something just shifted in me at that point in time. It was a mixture of being tired and like, you know, just like wanting to give up. And I was just like, you know what? I'm giving recovery a shot. Like I'm going to do everything that everyone tells me to do for a year. And then if my life doesn't get better, I'll go back to what I'm doing.
Yep. The drugs and alcohol will always be there.
Yes.
I can go back to that life.
And you know, at that point, they weren't doing anything anyway. They were just keeping me
normal.
They were just allowing me to get up and go to work, you know?
So up to that point, before that last time in rehab, how many inpatient, outpatient treatment, you know, detoxes had you been to?
Yeah, 4.
Okay, so 4. This was the 5th one or this was the 4th?
The 4th.
Okay. So you make this promise to yourself, I'm going to give it a year. See how it goes. You get out. You're in there for what, 28 days?
Yep.
Okay. You get out after 28 days. What does it look like day 29?
Boy, that was a fucking magical year. I'll tell you what. Day 29, day 28 or day 27, I was in the counselor's office and they were like, hey, your parents don't want you to come back home. They're giving you a ticket to a halfway house and they're paying for 2 weeks. Here's one in Minnesota. Here's one in Delray Beach. Take your pick. And I'm like, well, I grew up at the beach. I love the ocean, like lifeguarding. I was always into surfing, you know, water stuff. I'm like, that's attractive to me. And that's how I ended up in Delray. And so day 29, flew to Florida, you know, and I had 2 suitcases of clothes, 2 weeks of rent paid, no money, I had nothing. And I had to figure it out. And that was the best fucking thing that could have ever happened to me.
So you move into this sober house. Are you like, I went into a sober house as well. And I walk in, I'm judging everyone. I'm better than this guy. Yeah. I have so much more going on than this guy. Realistically, I had nothing going on in my life. Right. What was that like adapting into sober living?
So I'd been to a few others. So I kind of knew what to expect. This was not, I mean, we're in South Florida. There are so many transitional living houses and all that stuff. And like, I feel very, very fortunate. And I don't know, you know, God puts you where you need to be when you need to be there. And this was just like a big house. It was 2 stories. There was maybe 10 to 12 guys there. And I got clean with like a crew of guys who like stayed clean and did the shit, right? They're not all around now, but they were there for those first 2 years. I was there for 2 years. I lived in the halfway house for 2 years.
You lived in a halfway house for 2 years?
2 years. Because I didn't want to.
Yeah.
I didn't want to. I didn't want to be uncomfortable. I didn't want to have a roommate. I didn't want to sleep in a twin bed. I didn't want to have to fucking do everyone else's dishes. So I did it.
So for the listener who isn't familiar with sober living, can you break down the structure of your life for 2 years? Like, did you have a curfew? Were you drug tested? What did that look like?
Yeah, all that. So like 10 p.m. curfew, drug tested randomly. You always had a roommate. It was very, very rare to have like a single room. That's done for a reason. We isolate ourselves in addiction. We need the opposite of that, right? You have to maintain a job. You have to go to meetings. And that was pretty much it. This place was cash pay. So like insurance wasn't involved. I didn't have insurance. You know, the treatment program I was in was state funded, right? So I got blessed with that. So like if you don't work and you don't pay your rent and you don't go to meetings and you're not staying clean, you're homeless.
Yeah.
You know, you're on the streets. And like I was on the streets in New Jersey in the winter. I didn't want to be on the streets in Florida in the summer.
Yeah.
So I had that healthy fear.
Yeah. How did you start to bridge back to life? You said you had no money. Did you get that quote unquote sober job in the beginning? And
so another part of my journey that I'm super grateful for, I was never afraid to work hard, right? All the way through that day that I went to treatment or overdose and went to the hospital and then went to treatment a couple of weeks after that, I'd always worked. I worked in pizzerias because it was cash. It was paid every week or paid daily if I wanted it. It was a trade that I knew that would always be around for a while. And even though I was isolated myself in addiction, I still had people skills. And I don't know if that was learned over time from everything that I went through, but like I liked communicating with other people, right? And like serving, like even though I made pizza, I would go out and I would serve people and like they would tip me and I would like that. You know, it was enjoyable to me. So when I moved down here, that was the only fucking thing I knew how to do. I didn't know sales. I didn't know call center. I didn't know and I didn't want to work in like Walmart or something like that because I also have 3 felonies from that case in Pennsylvania. Yeah. 3 felonies. If you look at my record today, you'll see that. And that's something that's going to be with me for the rest of my life.
For the weed?
Yeah.
You got 3 felonies?
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
3 possession with intent to deliver. And I think the law is in Pennsylvania, like it can't be expunged. I've reached out to multiple attorneys and it's like, most of them are like, it's just going to be there. So I'm like, I've lived my life with it and it's never once held me back from doing something I want to do.
Are you allowed to carry a pistol here? No. Okay, so that's a federal.
It's another charge.
That's a federal law.
It's another charge. If I get caught with a firearm, it's another felony for having it.
Oh my God.
So,
but you know what? I feel like in sobriety, that's like you're sober 14 years. You're sober a very long time. That's like a badge of honor now.
Yeah.
It's
you know, like
whatever.
I don't, like if I want to have a firearm in my house, like the law is like, we can, it has to be in a safe. My wife has a combination. Yeah. You know, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
So original question, when I moved here, I went on Craigslist, which, you know, people are probably like, what the fuck is Craigslist? It was like, it's where you found jobs and bought shit online before there was like Marketplace, right? Yeah. Went on Craigslist. I found this pizzeria in Boca Raton. You know, I went down there, did the tryout, whatever, you know, and got a job the first day, right? So like, it's like, yeah, you really get thrown to the wolves, but you're like, well, what am I good at? What can I do now to build upon, right? So I took the 1 bus from Delray to Boca Raton for the first year of my recovery every single day. And it was an hour each way, but I needed that. I needed to humble myself and be like, it's okay to take public transportation. I bought a bike, put the bike on the front. I had to ride the bike from the bus station back and forth. And I did that for a year.
What other tools did you implement from a sobriety perspective? Were you going to meetings? Did you have any like accountability measures in place?
Yeah. So you'll never change unless you do work on yourself. Addiction, personal stuff, whatever it is, unless you're willing to go inside and do work on yourself, you'll never change, right? So I found a home in NA here in Florida, and there was a meeting that was at 10 o'clock at night, which was, you know, in the restaurant industry, you're working usually 10 to 9 or 11 to 9, whatever it is, you know, 5 days a week. So I would go right from work to the meeting like every day, you know? So that did a few things. The first thing it did was it gave me like, not so much stability, but like accountability in the fact that like I made friends and like people, like if I wasn't there, people would be like, oh, where's Andrew? They'd, you know, call or text you, right? The other thing that was really, really important for me at that point in time was I needed to see that other people and other young people were getting clean and changing their lives and like had lives outside of the rooms, the 12 steps, the NAA, whatever it was. And like getting involved in a home group and showing up there, you know, every day, whatever it was, or however many times a week I could get there was so important for me for 1, the accountability, and then 2, being like, oh, if these guys can do it, I can do it too.
Gave you that hope.
Yeah.
We all need that hope.
Yeah. And then like we'd go out to eat afterwards. And then like, you know, I'm living in the halfway house, you know, 30, 60, 90 days clean. They're like, yo, we're going to my buddy's apartment afterwards. I'm like, you guys got apartments? Like, yeah, come in the car. Like, you got a car? You got insurance and an apartment and a job and like health insurance and shit? Damn.
Yeah.
Wow.
Your second year in the sober living, the sober house.
Yeah.
How did your life start to evolve?
So I think for me, I needed to leave the restaurant industry and get like a different, I would call it a real job at that point in time. And that was for me, it was in a treatment center, right? So it did a few things. One, I started to earn more money, right? That's always good. You need money to survive. 2, I worked for like a real company. This was a big company, right? We had badges, time clocks, right? We had PTO. Like, bro, I didn't know how to fucking live my life. Like, I was shooting heroin for years and years and years. And then just all I knew how to do was make pizza. Now I'm working at this big place, big fancy, I'm like, wow, like I can do some shit, And like, I didn't let my record hold me back. I applied for the job, went into the interview, like, look, man, I got felonies. And they're like, yeah, so does everyone else who works here, So, and like, dude, but I needed that, right? That situation right there, getting that job, let me know that anything else was possible. Anything. If they gave me a job, I could do whatever I wanted to.
How were you able to, when you applied for that job, and I'm assuming they did the background check on you, you have felonies, and you said, yeah, like I just went in there and talked to them about it. It sounds like you had God in your life, or you had some kind of higher power.
Yeah, 100%.
Because I would have been like, oh, like I got to lie, say no, or they're really not going to do the background check on me and I'm going to gamble and double down on that. Or I need to stay ahead of it and justify it and tell them ahead of time or something. It sounds like you just kind of let it all play out and didn't implement your will in that situation. How did you get to a point?
So I was raised religious. And once I turned like 17 or 18 and like was old enough to like say, I'm not going to church, I didn't go. But once you get to the point where you're like so spiritually bankrupt, like you need that relationship with God to like bring you back to life, right? And that's what the steps does. Ultimately, that's what it did for me. And when you go through, the 12 steps and you do the work on yourself, you're building that relationship with God, right? And to me, it's evolves and it changes over time. But at the end of the day, for me, and it's much different now than it was in 2012, 2013, right? I knew through the overdoses, through the car accidents, through the treatment centers, through the IV drug use, all that stuff. If I got to where I am now and I'm alive, that God has a different plan for me than just dying, right? Because I told you the story about the overdose. The guy I lived with and the girl, not much older than me, both dead. The girl died of an overdose. The dude shot himself in the head because he couldn't live with himself in active addiction. He couldn't wrap his head around life, right? So building the relationship with God, is so important. Like it's changing. It's changing. Every day it changes, right? Now I wake up, literally the first thing I do, and it's not like this every day, but I'll wake up, my feet hit the ground. I don't get down on my knees or anything like that, but I say, thank you, God. Like
gratitude.
Yeah. Another chance. Yeah. Another day. But the relationship with God thing, like at first most people are turned off to it, because they're just so disconnected from themselves, from everything. Yeah. Right. So you need to get the drugs and shit out of your system. And like, you need some time, Yeah. Like the first 3 steps in the program are like, admitting that you have a problem. Right. That second step, like, hey, there's hope for me. See the other people in the home group, the apartments and the cars. And then third step, like, give it up. Like, take my will in my life. Like, show me how to do this.
Yeah. It's a less chaotic way to live.
Yeah.
There's always chaos going on in my head. If I'm working a very good program, I have no problem implementing God's will and turning things over. But it sounds like you were very connected in that second year when you were going through that whole process.
There's times and places where like I would feel connected and like try to channel that, like at the beach, right? You're sitting at the beach, you're looking at the sunrise or whatever. Like you're swimming in the ocean. Like that's God.
So when you transition from working at a pizza place to essentially a corporate job, for me, I struggled a lot with imposter syndrome. Did you experience that when you went there?
Not at that point. Not at that point. I was like fortunate enough that like a lot of people in my circle kind of worked for the same company. It was like
got it.
Part of the reason why I got in. Like I still had to do an interview and all this stuff. And like I was my own person at that time. Like nobody gave me anything.
Like,
from day one in recovery, nobody gave me shit. Like I think you can tell that from the story already. Like nobody paid my rent. Nobody got me a job. Like, and that's like life today. Like opportunities will be given to you when you deserve them, but you're only going to get it if you've done the work to that point to get there. Nobody's going to hand you anything.
Yeah. I feel like it's like your friends are working there. If these degenerates can do it,
it's like just social proof. It's not like a get in the door free card, you know?
So after, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I feel like a lot of people like loosely use that term now. And, I don't know. I don't like, what would you say the definition of that is?
So, I mean, all right, I got a job at Google 5 years ago. And I start working there, and this one went to Harvard. This one went to Princeton. I went to Albany, like SUNY, like whatever. My resume was not as impressive as some of theirs. And I automatically think I'm not good enough to be here. The voices start. And for an alcoholic or an addict, it's 10 times 10. So it's an internal battle where you don't feel a part of. You are alienating yourself. You don't feel like you can handle the work. But then I started doing the work and I'm like, this shit is easy. And then I fit right in. Then I'm excelling past some of these guys that went to Harvard and Princeton.
Yeah.
And it was just this strain I was putting on myself internally in my head.
Yeah.
That it's completely bullshit. I'm not good enough. I don't fit in. All of those voices to differentiate myself from everyone else and not be a part of.
Yeah.
And I feel like us alcoholics and addicts struggle with that a lot more than your average person.
Yeah.
It's funny, when I started at Google in training, the first thing they said to us, you may be experiencing imposter syndrome. I'm going to let you know I did. The class before you did, the class before that did. And then I hear the Princeton guy was going through the same thing. The Harvard guy was going through the same thing. And then it's like, all right, sigh of relief. It's like being hard on yourself. You know?
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like that term, it does make sense, right? And I'm not contradicting the way that you felt, but I feel like that term was just like, in the past couple of years, was just like made up. And I feel like the more people talk about it,
the more it's relevant. Or the more it pops up.
It's like we all have insecurities.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. But I think that the work, so up until that, I mean, I took my time like with the work in the program. And like, honestly, I think when I had a year, I'd maybe only done a couple steps, like the first 3 maybe. But like really worked on like applying them in my life slowly, right? I used drugs for many, many, many years. I can't expect to do all this work in 1 year and change, right? So I feel like when I got to that 1 year mark, honestly, I felt like good. I felt like my confidence was higher than it had ever been. And I felt like I deserve this in a way.
That's because I put in the work. Yeah. When you put in the work.
Yeah.
I got lucky.
And you deserve to be at Google too.
Well, I got lucky.
You're a fucking smart guy.
No, I appreciate that. And this is me being hard on myself and differentiating myself. But I did get lucky with getting that job. And I put in the work, but I feel like, you know, from an educational standpoint, I could have done, that's where all the fears and insecurities, you know, and the shame and guilt. My GPA was lower in high school because of the drugs and alcohol. In college, drugs and alcohol. And I never really pushed myself to my max potential.
Yeah.
So that's where that shame and guilt kind of kicks in.
Yeah.
So I guess, to your point, the imposter syndrome isn't anything unless there is shame and guilt deep down in that insecurity.
Right.
So you said you worked on steps 1 through 3 when you eventually got to the 4th step. And for the listener who isn't familiar with the steps, 4th step, you do an inventory on yourself and you really start to look at yourself, right? Drinking, drugs, gambling, sex, these are all symptoms of the disease. The disease is within and the problem is within. What did you learn about yourself once you started taking a look at yourself?
It's a great question. Really good question. I'll never forget the moment that I went through all the writing that I went through with my sponsor. And he was like, dude, when you drive home, put music on, whatever, roll the windows down. Like, think about what you really just did, you know, because a lot of people don't ever experience stuff like that. Right. So what did I learn? I learned that I'm not that bad of a person, that everything that I did in my life had already been done before. 9 times out of 10, people did way worse shit, right? I learned that putting things down on paper and sharing them with someone else takes a weight off you that is unlike any other feeling that you could have ever experienced, you know? And I learned that, yeah, there were patterns in my life that I was repeating that I needed to just be aware of and break free from.
Dude, I'm like getting emotional with you talking about this because I had the same experience. I learned about I thought I was this scumbag, this piece of shit. I couldn't look at myself in the mirror.
Yeah.
And then I did a 4th step, and then fourth and 5th step.
Yep.
And then I realized that I really wasn't as bad as I thought I was.
Yeah.
I was bad with drugs, don't get me wrong, but like as bad of a person.
Right.
And I used to shame and guilt myself. Even with this podcast, someone's like, dude, I just listen, like, you're good at it. And I'm like, no, I'm not really that good. Like, I've just been getting lucky and like doing this and that. Like, I don't give myself enough credit.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the turning point for me. I feel like once you hit, you do a 4th and 5th step, and then you hit 5 years of sobriety, that like anything under 5 years is early sobriety.
Yeah. Those are 2 huge landmarks.
And once I crossed both of those, then I really started to believe that I'm worth it, and I'm really not. I used to like get into relationships and like I'm underdog immediately because I'm this horrible person, and they're just going to find it out eventually.
Yeah. And
it's just a matter of time until the other shoe drops.
Yeah. It's a beautiful, amazing process. Like, man, everybody always says it, but it's like everybody should do some step work.
Yeah.
You know, or some therapy or some sponsorship or.
Yeah. The shame and guilt kept me out there for a very long time.
Yeah.
I couldn't go into sobriety because I didn't think I didn't think I could do it. I was scared of the detox, XYZ. The list is forever. But I also just felt like I was a piece of shit and I didn't deserve it. I didn't deserve a good life.
Yeah.
You know?
We all do.
So your life has taken off significantly. You end up getting married. You have kids. You have a family now. You have a house. You have a company. You have you have a full life, right? All the promises that we learn about in sobriety have come true for you.
Yeah.
What was that journey like?
My wife and I met when we both had 9 years clean.
She's in sobriety.
And we have the same clean date.
What?
Talk about a God alignment thing. Yeah. So obviously you're not supposed to get into relationships early on and all that stuff. But, you know, we met when we had 9 months. We didn't get married. We didn't move in together. We didn't have kids. Like, we met in 2012. We got married in 2017. You know, it was a beautiful, flourishing relationship. So like, there's a long time in between that first year and now. Obviously there's 13 years. So there's like so many things that happened there. But like being in that relationship, obviously with my wife, you know, has taught me a lot. You know, it's taught me a lot about how to be a man and how to be honest and open and vulnerable, which isn't easy like 90% of the time.
I know.
But you have to make the 10% and you have to do it anyway, you know? It's taught me a lot, and man, and it's taken me a long time to figure out like really what I want to do with my life, like career wise, to like earn money and to like provide for my family. It took me so long to figure it out, you know? But you know, I went from, you know, career to career, just feeling empty, like sitting at a desk, right? Just like literally just working it, and like, I'll be rested, right? And I'll be healthy, but I'll just be sitting there and I could just literally feel the energy being sucked out of me. And I would leave there and then I would feel fine again. I'm like, all right, something's got to fucking change.
Shell of yourself at work.
Shell of myself. Because, you know, my sponsor told me this in early recovery. There's 2 places where you are the most, your home and your job, right? If those 2 places aren't good, your life's not going to be right. So, I was in call centers for a while. I was in sales for a while. I was in the treatment space for a while. I was in a marketing and web design company. And then my last job, which they're still a client of mine today, was amazing. I was in the marketing department for a treatment program, but I was doing video production, photography, social media, graphic design, and some light web work, which are all things that I learned in all those other jobs, like blended in together with my passion, which was photo and video. And, started off making good money and, made a little bit more each year. But I got to the point, and don't get me wrong, like I'm extremely grateful for that job, but I still felt purposeless at that job because I was only doing what I was really excited about 10% of the time. So I was like, man, how could I do this all the time? Right. So for 3 years, I built the business, working nights, working weekends, working weddings, doing shit I didn't want to do, but making videos, and I was fortunate enough to leave there and keep them as a client. I got to a point where I was like, wait a second, I'm making more money working nights and weekend doing this little video production thing than I do in my full-time job. Why am I not betting on myself again?
Yeah.
I know why. Because I started the business in 2019 and it was a fucking disaster, epic failure. Maybe not a failure, epic learning experience, right? And that just kind of scarred me, So I always had that entrepreneurial bug. I was always doing a little thing. I operated a juice and smoothie bar inside of a yoga studio for 2 years. I thought it was going to be a freaking home run cash grab, but it was not, and I learned a lot about myself and my business partner who was a friend, which was a mistake, and a bunch of other things. So that kind of held me back from making the jump out to going full-time in the business again. But I did it differently. And I had that data and I had the numbers and I had actual written proof that this would work if I applied myself. Yeah. And in the interim of all that stuff, obviously we're having babies and we're moving into bigger houses and we're doing all this stuff, which is, it's absolutely incredible. When the kids say daddy, it's just like, it just melts you.
Yeah. So you take this leap of faith and you bet on yourself with the company you have now.
Yeah.
Not only do you have a successful business, how has that experience going after and chasing a passion of yours, but also betting on yourself, how has that impacted other areas of your life?
Dude, being able to do what you want to do on a daily basis and what excites you and what lights you up and what motivates you and what fuels your energy, what fuels your soul is the most priceless thing that you could ever have. Right. And I know you can relate to this. All right. So it's also the most amount of work I've ever done in my entire life in the past few years.
Yeah.
You might look at it like, oh, he's driving around or he's at the gym or he's doing this or he's doing that. And it's like, yeah, but you don't really see behind the curtain.
The grind.
You don't really see the grind. Yeah. And I love it. In the pizza shop, right? I was working 6 days a week for 12 hours a day, right? Making somebody else money, making them financially free, making them so they could have their own schedule, and now I'm just to the point where I could do it myself.
Yeah. What are some tools that you implement in your life today to live not only a clean and sober life, but you're glowing with gratitude. You have this full life. There's a lot of positive energy around you. What tools do you implement to keep that going?
Your health has to come first. Sometimes it's a very selfish thing. And my wife will be like, oh, why do you need to work out today? Why you need to do this? Why you need, but if I'm not the absolute best, most sharpest version of myself, I cannot be a good father, a good leader in my business, a good friend, right? All these things, right? It took me a long time to realize that because, I'd be in the gym, I'd be out of shape, in shape, back and forth. But throughout the past, 2 years of building the business, I literally am so fucking dedicated to being the most healthiest version of myself that the return is just, it's it pays dividends over and over and over again.
Yeah.
Right. So I have to put my health first to be the best version of myself. And that's food too. right? Like, don't get it twisted out there and think you can just go to the gym and be good, right? Like, you need to, like, what we put into our bodies, right, is so important. Put down the fucking McDonald's and the soda and all this shit, you know? Like, there's meal prep companies. There's all these people who make it easy for us to eat healthy, right? Yeah. The same people who make our food, the fast food and the shit, are the same people who are making our medicines, you know? They're trying to keep us sick, you know? And I'm going down a black hole here, but like, no. But like, this is just my experience, right? Like, you know, when I was working that, you know, the jobs and I wasn't happy, I'm just putting shit into my body, not feeling good, not having energy to exercise because I can't go before work because I can't wake up early enough. And I'm not going after work. As soon as I get home, I'm going to the couch. Yeah. You know? Yeah. And like, I need the energy to be able to play with my kids, you know? Like, they're up at 6. They're up until, 9 o'clock at night. They want to be outside, which I'm so grateful for. That we live in Florida. It's beautiful. We can go to the pool at 6 o'clock at night. They want to be outside. They want to go run around with their friends. I'm there. I'm running around with them. Yeah. I'm doing it because it's only because I put my health first. Yeah.
If you could go back to the, let's say 19, 20, 21-year-old Andrew who the listener can relate to, let's say they're in that position right now. What piece of advice would you give them?
Stop fucking listening to other people, because they will instill shit into you that you will believe for years and years and years, and you will waste time. Time is our only currency, right? It's the only thing we have. And I think once you have children, things start to shift in yourself because you see them grow and you realize you're getting older. And then you look at your parents and you're like, wow, they're getting older too. Like, we're only here on this earth for a very short period of time. So if you're living in alignment with someone else's beliefs, you're going to screw yourself up, man.
What was one example of something that
people told me that I would never make money doing videos, taking pictures, all that stuff. And I'm like, okay, guess I'll just fucking go make pizza, live in my parents' basement for another 6 years. You know?
So you spread your wings and
that's it, bro. You need to formulate your own values, beliefs, ideas, and be in alignment with your authentic true self. But you can't do that when you're addicted to drugs. So it's kind of like a catch-22. But like, it was a combination. So that's what I would tell myself. Like, you're killing yourself. You're poisoning yourself with drugs, but you're not only poisoning your body, you're destroying your mind and your connection to this earth and this human experience that we have, which is so short, right? So like, get your head out of your ass.
Yeah. What do you do today to keep that spiritual bank account full?
So lifting weights is one thing. And that kind of coincides with health. Still go to meetings. The friendships that I have today with people, with guys, particularly one guy who was the best man in my wedding, who was around at the clubhouse when I got clean in 2011, right? The relationship I have with him is incredible. Like we just gas each other up. You know what I'm saying? Like, you have to have somebody like that. Yeah. So like your circle, right? They say you're the five average of the 5 people you hang around. Like, who you hang around is so important, right? So being healthy, choosing the right people to hang around with, and just believing in yourself, man. It's so important.
It's amazing. Well, Andrew, thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah.
You're doing it, man. And your story is going to help a lot of people.
I hope so.
I appreciate you coming out, and thanks again for coming on.
My pleasure.